That was a cool conversation. I'm not.
I think so.
Lie.
It was cool.
Especially like.
I think it was vulnerable. I think it was real.
It was. It was real. Yeah. Let's talk about how the whole thing started. So you were in as a kid. You were involved in skateboarding.
Yeah.
You saw your dad. You kind of got the gist of being in arts, right? Through True North Board, you got the gist of having something of my own. But how did the whole journey of photography started? Because right now the examples that I gave is very vague. I feel like a lot of people have experienced things such as that, right? But they don't take it anywhere. How are you? For sure. Are you comfortable?
Yeah, I'm good. Just adjusting.
Gotcha. How are you able to be at the position that you're in today? Like, what does it take?
A large part of it where it's basically discipline, a little bit of naivety in a sense of being, thinking that you can make it, or not caring when you fail.
Okay.
I think it's a huge thing. And then just kind of going. And I mean, like, the thing is that, like, I really appreciate that you say that like, I'm, one of the best photographers, but I'm not. And I think the thing is that, like, and I can confidently say that, and not in a sense to self-pity, but it's in a sense to understand that this road that we're kind of on is so long, and like there's so much to do and to like continue to do that like you really can't, you can't take it for granted, and you can't just think that, oh, I got one small win or some things I've been doing are nice and I can just stop or get comfortable. You have to keep going and you can't stop.
But I'll be a devil's advocate.
Sure.
But you still need to be able to look at your achievement and look at where you are. And I'm not saying that you're not grateful, because you just said you are.
Yeah.
But I feel like, yes, you're pushing yourself, but you're also, how do I put this into words? You're not, because you're happy where you are, right?
Well, yeah, for now,
For now, okay. Because the things that you mentioned were being naive.
Yeah.
Right? You said, okay, let's talk about being naive. So what do you mean by that?
Well, I think there's like two ways to look at that, where it's like one way is, you got to be naive and you got to be like not thinking that you're going, like that you could make it. Like you have to dream, right? You kind of have to will these things into real life. You kind of have to be like, okay, well, like, it's what a manifestation kind of thing, right?
Gotcha.
You kind of have to think that you could do it. And that's, to a degree, is being naive in a sense, where because, there's a lot of people that come from better backgrounds or come from, like nepotism kind of thing, or that have better opportunity or in a better place in life, or they're older, all these things, right? Or they have more money, whatever it is. But it's like, that's why, like, you can't, you're kind of, it's a double-edged sword where you're thinking you're going to make it, but then you're also forgetting that you're going to fail kind of thing. And it's kind of like, and then you have to understand that if you are going to fail, you have to be naive in the sense of saying, not that this isn't it. This can't be it, right? This isn't like the last time I'm going to fail.
Okay.
Right? So when you do, you kind of have to understand that like that's going to happen again and again, and you kind of have to roll with the punches.
Gotcha.
You kind of have to let yourself just like you're kind of like just going through life, like la-di-da-di-da, like you're kind of just like, oh, I failed, whatever, and you just keep going. And people that I think that get caught up or that have a really hard time with judgment or with failure, I think that's when this kind of like this issue happens with where you just kind of get bogged down in your head and you get things where anxiety fills you or depression fills you and that kind of thing. And I think if you can learn to let some of that go, that's where you'll really see yourself grow, because it's that idea that, as every time you fail, you've learned something, and you just kind of snowball effect that, right? So kind of having blinders on and not seeing the failures or seeing the people that you think are judging you makes it a lot easier.
That makes sense.
That makes sense, right?
Makes sense,
I think so.
Or what is one of the biggest failures you've had?
There's like actually like big failures. Or
like
a
failure, or something that you consider, something that you have learned from a loss.
Well, I think, okay, I'll give one example, because I'm sure there's a bunch, and I also kind of feel like I block them out a bit, or I kind of like suppress them, because you don't want to think about them for some reason. But one that is like has always stuck out to me is when it was a couple years ago, maybe 4 years ago, 3 years ago, I was getting a little bit of work, and I was like starting to get work, but I would say that my quickness to turn work around in terms of editing or like photo retouching, one, was not at any type of quality, and 2 was not fast or like good enough, right?
Okay.
And I remember I got this contract for, it was like a subcontract through a friend, and they asked me to like, I think it was like cut out their hair. So like basically like turn the color into another color behind them, let's say backdrop or like into a transparency or something.
Gotcha.
And I remember being like, oh, I could do it easy. But there's ways you can do this trick and this kind of editing technique that are like quicker. There's ways that are longer. There's ways that are better, that are more detailed. Some that are better for Instagram or better for print, whatever. Doesn't matter. But basically this company comes to me and they're like, hey, can you do this? Can you switch this color to this color and keep the shadows and like do all these things?
Right.
And at the time I had never done that. But I just took the contract because I was just like, I just want the money. And I was like, I can do it. I can do it. Like I know I can figure it out.
Okay.
And I think I stayed up like all night, stayed up till like 4 a.m., like watching YouTube videos, trying to figure it out. And I don't even think I knew what I was doing because I don't know why I didn't figure it out. I remembered finishing the contract, and I then like looked back and was like, oh, they're gonna hate these photos. Like it doesn't look clean. My edges weren't clean, and I didn't mask it properly, and all these Photoshop things. But I look back now, and I can do that. I can do it like this, like nothing. Like, and I do it every day with my job and with past jobs and other contracts and clients. Yeah. And I just think back and I'm like, oh, it's so funny. Like, what a failure, because I remember emailing them and being like, hey, let me know if there's any issues, blah, blah, blah. I'm happy to redo it. And they like never responded. And I think they were just like really mad at me. And I just got a check in the mail from them. Like they paid me, which I'm glad they did. But they just like never responded to my email. And I think I followed up too. I was like, hey, I just like want to make sure everything was okay. But I just know that they were like, these suck. We have to get these redone right away by somebody who can actually do it.
What made you follow up again?
Just being polite.
Just guilt?
Being polite. No, being polite. I think as well, like, I think when you're emailing at somebody, you can always like follow up twice, and that's about it. I think like, you email them once, but for in that case, it was just following up, being like, here are the images, they're done. And I think they said thank you or something. I don't remember. Okay. But I think they were just kind of like, oh, thanks, we'll let you know. And then they never let me know. But I never saw the images on their website or anything. So maybe I'm looking into it. I don't know. But I just felt like it ended like, this is done and we'll never work with you again kind of thing. And now it's not the end of my career. It's not the end of anything. But that was 4 years ago. But I see that as like a learning, whatever it is, like a curve kind of thing, or a learning whatever, blah, blah, blah. Where like that happens. And then you're going to have to understand that that's not going to be forever, right? You're going to grow from that and like, okay, now I need to learn how to do this. And so I started taking other jobs that were smaller. I started watching more YouTube videos, doing more like research, more knowledge kind of thing. And then one day you just kind of can figure it out and you can do it. And so I just thought about that for a while, where it's kind of like, oh my God, I remember when I failed miserably at that. And now it's changed.
What has changed between that Max and the Max today that's sitting, apart from skills? Do you understand that question?
Yeah, kind of. I think I do. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think one of the biggest things is willingness to say no, maybe.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think so. But I mean, in that case, I'm glad that I took that job, even though I didn't know what I was doing. Yeah, that's that kind of like little drive in me, or kind of like I wasn't being deceptive, but I was kind of like, oh yeah, I can figure it out. And you kind of bite off more than you can chew, kind of thing. But I think these days, even though I could do that now, and I can do a lot more things with Photoshop and a lot more things with shooting wise or production wise, and I've learned to be able to take a lot more on my plate as I get going, because I can organize things a bit better. But I think the willingness to say no, in the sense of that, like, one, at that point, I think I charged them like nothing to do this, so they thought they were getting a deal. And so I would now, it's all depends on rates and on money and all that thing, because you have to understand your time and what's worth your time. Even at that point when I did that contract, it wasn't really worth my time, in the sense that I spent 9 hours probably on like 10 photos, like trying to figure this out and trying to get it so perfect. And when you look back on it, I think it was like $250 or something, or like nothing really. But I look back and I go, I would never do that now. Yeah. Sorry. Like, I would never spend that much time on, like, you have to calculate all your time and your money and your skill, and it's like, is this really worth it? Did it lead to anything? No. So it's like, is that something I should do? Yeah, I don't know.
What is something that's been on your mind lately?
A lot of things.
A lot of things.
Of course. I think like who I am as a person is on my mind, and who I want to be as a person when I get older, and as I am getting older. I think like what's truly making me happy, and I think just like I'm thinking very introspectively lately. And I think the summer can sometimes do that to me, and I've noticed maybe like last summer and stuff like that, because it's nice out and everything's pretty, and your friends everyone's happy and running around, and then if you take a second to slow down, you think like, well, I'm exhausted, or maybe I'm not happy with this, or maybe do I want to keep doing this, Do I like partying that much? Do I like, working this much? I wish I should be traveling, things like that.
Yeah.
I think we all have those thoughts, but it's like just something I'm thinking about a lot more recently, as I do tend to find myself being someone who moves a bit too quickly, I think, through life, always looking for more, always searching, always, I need this, I need that, blah, 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 being frantic at times. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of used to be in that position. I was speaking about this yesterday with a friend, where I was like, I'm going to, no matter what it is, I'm going to bite more than I can chew.
Yeah.
And recently I've come to a realization where if you want to make something good that's worthy and things such as that, you cannot have a lot of projects. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, we're almost, I think the hustle culture and the grind culture is not really it.
Yeah.
And I could have put that in a better way, but does that make sense to you?
It does. I think I know exactly what you're saying, but I think that no matter what, and I think as we've spoken about, we both have the same understanding that, the grind culture is kind of like, or not grind culture, it sounds so horrible, but it's so fried. But like the idea of like being a hustler, or like people being like, you can't stop, like you gotta keep going, like grind harder, or comparing yourself to other people. That's like innate in people, and like that's just like in their, consciousness, that's in their way of life. But I think that, I'm trying to realize that as well. Like, okay, what do you actually have to do? What is actually worth it? Yeah. And I think to a degree you can just kind of burn yourself out if you do that. And I've really felt that lately. And that's really like wearing on me. But then I just have this kind of immense like curiosity, or like knowledge of like how good could I get, How good could I get at like time management, or how good could I get at like, responsibility, or prioritizing, or, what's really worth it in life. And I think there's like something I've always thought about, and it's so random, but I've always really looked up to like creative directors, or like people that say like even like Virgil Abloh, or like Matthew Williams, where it's like, okay, you have your own brand, and then you have like subdivisions of those brands.
Right.
You have your own personal brand, which is their name, right? And then they're also like the creative director at like Givenchy, like Matthew Williams. It's like, what the fuck? Like,
how do you do
that?
How
are you doing that?
Exactly.
Like, and then like they're like, oh, and they have a kid.
I know.
And like, and they did, like they both did.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like, wait, what? It's like, how are you doing that? And I just don't understand that. And I want to know. Like, I just want to figure that out. I think that's kind of where I'm at. And it's like, how can I balance all this? How can I continue to push myself? What's the next right step? Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I'm in a similar position, because the podcasting thing it's more than a full-time job right now. And I want to start my own project too, again. So, but I have no time.
Yeah. I don't know.
So I'm like, how the fuck do, I guess Matthew Williams, right? How is he able to do all this? And I feel like it kind of comes down to, I feel like he might have a lot of assistants.
Yeah.
Assistants.
Yeah, for sure.
Assistants.
There's assistants, and he has assistants.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And there's a whole lot of other things that we don't know,
Of course. And I think as well too, like you got to think like, I mean, with Virgil or with Matthew Williams, like then actually they're, close. It's like they go back to this kind of world of like, Kanye, Don C, and, even Justin Saunders and people like that. Yeah. And it's just this whole world of like, they were just like young trying to do something.
Exactly.
And they gain success, I guess, early or quickly. It can't be quickly, but it's earlier, whatever. And then, so then, you start having people behind you and backing you, and money gets more, and money gets, like longer. And it's kind of like you have an assistant, or you have two assistants, and you have one for each one, and they're organizing your life. You have producers, you have managers, and I think that I can't wait for that stage, if that ever will be a stage where I can afford to pay someone to help me with my ideas and kind of curate my things. And Yeah, I guess that's right. We don't really know what their situation was or how it all went down.
Do you ever, like, do you think about, here's the thing. People like me, and I know there's a lot more people who adore brands like Dime, right? And then, you know, we find out, oh, Max is the in-house photographer at Dime. And they feel like you have it all,
Sure.
right? And then do you worry to sometimes be like, you know what, I'm not doing okay, or I don't know what I'm doing with my life, and things such as that?
Yeah. Sorry, continue your question if there's anything else to say.
That's it really. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think if anybody thinks, if anybody watching thinks that that I haven't figured out, you're fucked. I literally am like, losing my mind every single day. And I mean that because this is only like the first step. Like I've only been doing this for like about 2.5 years now, right? Like with Dime.
Yeah.
I'm doing it for longer, photography, but
You have this great opportunity that you earned at Dime.
yeah.
People like me, and there's other people who look at you and they think Max has it all.
Yeah.
Has it all. How much do you worry that? Do you worry about actually being vulnerable with people and being honest with people and actually telling them, you know what, I might not be doing okay, or I don't think this is the right step for me, or why am I, like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life? Because everybody feels that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I think 100%. I think, you know, as I was saying earlier, or I was trying to say, but it's like, you know, anyone that would ever think that, you know, that if I have something that they don't, or that, you know, oh my God, Max seems like he's got it right now because of this position at Dime, it's bullshit. You know, it's like, that's not it at all. I was very lucky to fall into, you know, into this position in a sense of, you know, my work and talent kind of intercepted at the right time, right place, right time. And, you know, the story, I've told it before a lot, is that, you know, I was working this job for this other brand, and I absolutely hated it. It was probably the worst job I've ever worked. It was the same position that I'm working now at Dime as an in-house photographer. So it was at this other job, and it was the worst thing I've ever had. It was mentally, physically, emotionally abusive, like insane. And my whole thing was that I worked there for 7 months, and I quit because I just couldn't do it anymore. And I was like, I'm going to move back home. I was like, I'm going to go back home, live with my mom. I was like, I'm going to work on my art, or like, you know, try to really find myself kind of thing through art kind of thing. And then I'm just on Instagram one day, like a couple days later, I think it was 3 days later, and Dime posts, and they're like, we're looking for an in-house photographer, which I had just finished doing. And they were like, you know, submit your applications. And I was like, fuck. Because I was like, I know that I need to apply to this. I didn't know I was going to get it or anything, but I was like, I know that I need to.
Yeah.
And at the time, I only knew one person working at Dime, and it was my friend Noah. And Noah has been, you know, a part of Dime for a very long time. He's a big part of the brand. And I just said to him, I mean, you know, he works on the, you know, receiving and warehousing side. And I said, you know, I don't know if you can do this, or if you're allowed, like if it's, you know, respectful enough to do, you know, kind of thing. But I was like, could you just put in, you know, a good word? Yeah. I was like, I don't expect anything, but I was like, if you could just mention, hey, my friend applied, what are the odds, you know, even an interview or something. Right. I was like, that'd be amazing. And he's like, oh, let me see what I can do, kind of thing, right? Yeah. And then a week later, they call me up, and they're like, hey, it's, you know, I think it was Guillaume or Vince. And I was like, it's Guillaume or Vince from, you know, Dime. We'd love to set up a meeting, just talk. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, holy fuck. I was like, this is my fucking dream, dude. Like, holy shit. And I was like, yeah, anything you want, like anytime. I was like, okay, sure. And they're just like, okay, cool, like here you go, like here's the time, whatever. And then do the interview. Interview went really well. I think it went well. I mean, clearly, but like it went well. We talked, we laughed, we kind of vibed right away. And I mean, skateboarders can be like that. It's you know, pretty chill. So we talked. Whatever. Interview ended. They're like, listen, we've got a lot of other applicants. They're like, we'll let you know. And I don't know if I'm going to butcher this number or whatever it is, but I swear there was like over 100 people who applied. Something crazy. Like, I know. I mean maybe I'm wrong about that. I have no idea. But somebody mentioned to me once. But then basically what happened is that was a Thursday, I think. Friday morning, I was going to Toronto, I think for Easter. Okay. Like it was around April when I got hired. Or I was just going back with my little sister to go see my family, something like that. Right. And I'm like in the car on the way there, and this is on Friday. and I just get a call from Vince, or from Guillaume, somebody, and they're just like, "Hey man, what's up?" And I was just like, "Hey," and then they're just like, "Oh man, we'd really love to interview you again, blah blah blah," and I was just like, "Oh yeah, like sounds good," or like they said something like that, and then I didn't tell them I was on the way to Toronto at that point, and I was like, "How's Tuesday? Like in person or?" What was it? I think, no, you know what I think it was? I think they were like, we'd like to do is your second interview is going to be a test shoot. So like, can you come in and photograph these pants? And then just because our photographer was sick or something, can you just come and do that? We need it done for Tuesday. And I was like, oh yeah, like not a problem. So I like get to Toronto, Markham. And like I'm like, Mom, like I got to go as soon as I get here basically. So I get there Saturday, Sunday, I get there and then I left Monday morning and like drove back alone. And I was like, Lucy, like my sister, I was like, I'll buy you a train ticket or like, a bus ticket. I was like, I need to go back for this. I was like, bus back, did the thing on the Tuesday, and then it worked out from there. And I think one of the biggest things is that they had asked somebody or two other people to do that, and they said no, or that they said that they couldn't do it. I think I'm maybe getting the story right, but
something along those
lines. Yeah. And they're just like basically, and my buddy Kevin, who works at Dime right now, he said that he knew it as soon as I showed up. He was like, "You're the only one that showed up to do this test shoot thing." So like we're still like that's how they knew they could rely on you kind of thing, and so rushed back from Toronto to do this test shoot. Did the test shoot. I think it went well, and then I was hired that following week or the week there, and it was just kind of like, okay, I guess I'm back in this mess, like in this thing. But it's been so worth it.
What makes Dime a company that you actually sticked with versus the company that you were working for 7 months?
I think a lot of things is company culture. I think, right off the bat when I got hired, I felt immediately like I was a part of the team. Like they wanted me to be a part of the team.
How?
Just in terms of being nice, I think. Just being kind of like, hey, man, how are you? Shaking my hand, giving me a hug, having beers after work, things like that.
Okay.
And it is a very tight family. And I think when you kind of come in as a new person into that group, it can be a little bit overwhelming or scary a bit. And I was kind of always like, oh, they don't know me. Like, they're going to do their thing. And there's aspects of that always in any company. But it did feel very much like, okay, you're now a part of us kind of thing. And, I love everybody there. It's a very tight-knit family. Yeah. And I think, so that's a huge thing. I think, as soon as we started, we had this big meeting because it was me and like 3 other people who got hired for like other positions in the company.
Oh, I see.
Like,
sort of like
web developers and like designers and stuff like that. Like we hired like a couple people. There's like 3 of us. So this big meeting, and then it ended on like a big inclusivity workshop, and like we're speaking with a skater who was trans and like all these things, and I was just kind of like sitting back like, this is like really cool and felt very modern as a company. It felt great in terms of just like feeling like we were one kind of thing. And then as well, just the plans for the company, the goals that the company was setting, and I think as well too, just as as a blatant kind of fact, it's like it was literally one of my favorite companies ever, right?
Yeah.
When you have a love and a passion for a company, like unlike the last job that I had, which I didn't really have a passion for.
Okay, gotcha.
This was very much like, okay, no, I feel like I'm at home. And like, even though some things in this job title and, being an in-house photographer, I don't find fun about photography, there's certain things I don't like, you're still doing it knowing that the outcome is, because it's kind of yours. It kind of feels like it's your baby, and like you love this company. You want to see the company do well. And there's like a respect level there. There's a love that's there, right? And
if you could go back, would you work for 7 months for the previous company?
Yes.
You would?
100%.
Yeah, so the company that you're working for 7 months was not Jound?
No.
Okay, perfect.
So basically, like, to kind of go back,
Yeah.
I'm working 2 companies before Dime. I'm working in this warehouse, and I really love the company. I love what they do. I'm having a great time. But I'm not seeing so much movement or growth. And I mean, I was only there for 4 months, so I should really give it, I shouldn't do that. They were very kind to me and very nice. But basically what happened is I just got this opportunity, this other company.
Yeah.
So this was here, and then this one,
Right.
and this is Dime. The one in between basically emails me, and they go, hey, we really would want you to be our photographer kind of thing. We saw your work through this other brand or something else I did. Do you want to come in and, interview? And I said, oh my God, I'd love to. Like, we'll give you a salary. They're like, you get your office, all these things. I was like, ooh, cool. I was like, that sounds nice. And this would have been one of my first photo jobs as like an in-house or like studio photographer kind of thing. And so I left that job that I liked, that I was at prior to this one that I didn't like, because I just saw that there was a growth there that I needed to go do. And I even said to that company prior, I was like, listen, I need to go leave and do this and be this in-house photographer. And I was like, but I want to come back. I was like, I want to go do this, learn, and I know I'm not going to like it, or it's, seems like it's not my style, but I need to go do it. So I did that for 7 months and then realized, how much I hated it in terms of the company culture. But I'm glad I did because it allowed me to get the job at Dime.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I had to do those 7 months of like hard work or like pain basically to learn techniques, to learn styles, to learn how to deal with, work coming at you at all angles. And yeah, without that, I don't think I would have gotten the job at Dime. I think it's honest to God.
And were you in Ontario, Markham?
No, I was here.
Oh, that was in Montreal?
Yeah, I'll be in Montreal, yeah.
Okay. When did you move to Montreal?
2016.
26. Wow.
Yeah, I've been here for a while, yeah. So I was like in school too at the same time, working at all these other jobs through COVID and all that, and then graduated from school, I guess it's a year ago now, 2022.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, something I want to touch on is in a previous conversation, we talked about how it took you 5 years of doing unpaid work, basically unpaid work for the longest time to build your portfolio.
Yeah.
Right. 5 years. Can we sort of talk about that journey?
Yeah, for sure. I mentioned it to you before, but I'll kind of go through it. Basically, I went to Concordia for fine arts in 2016. There's a bit of a backstory there in terms of how I got into photography, but started going into school for photography, and quickly I realized that I, as somebody who, it basically is a white straight male, does not have, an immense amount of story to tell in a sense.
Okay.
And I think that I was realizing through school that there was a lot, people were telling their stories, people were telling about their backgrounds, their histories, like their family cultures, all these things. Right. And I felt like I didn't belong as somebody like that. And I was kind of like, okay, like I don't want to, step on any toes. I don't want to be like, oh, woe was me, my parents are divorced or, something like that, right? Everyone has their own story, and I'm not judging or putting that, but I just felt like there wasn't a place for me there, and I felt as well that the type of work that I was leaning towards was more like fashion or more editorial or more, friendship, fun kind of lookbook shoot kind of based.
Yeah. And
everyone else there was trying to explore, deeper conversations in photography. So whether that's with print techniques or whether that's with, subjects that are heavy and you're creating a story through your work, a large, book of work kind of thing, like just amassing a bunch, I felt like I didn't fit. So either personally or stylistically, I felt that I wasn't right for fine art school.
What you were doing, yeah.
Exactly. So quickly I just realized that I was like, I got to get a job, and I was like, I got to like learn how to make money with photography because I'm not going to be able to do this artist thing, really. Yeah. And so, basically from that moment, which was 2017, I was working at Adidas at the time on St. Catharines, just in the back store, packing boxes, and was then just taking that money that I had that I was getting from there, and I was buying film, and I was trying to set up shoots and set up creative stuff, and anybody that I knew, I was asking them to if they had a shoot to be done or they wanted to get something done, like, oh, I'll show up and I'll just take photos for free. And it was basically just for free.
I'll show up and I'll take photos for free.
Yeah. I was like, if you want, I'll be there. Music videos, behind the scenes of music video shoots, like event photography, weddings, galas, like Concordia stuff, and then like concerts, festivals, and as I started meeting more people, there's our perks that comes with these things. You get to see shows that you want to see for free, and you just photograph. But there's that balance of like everyone being like, I can't pay you, but it's experience. Yeah. And I think that was a big thing, and I'm not sure if that's still happening as much now, but I think it is, and I think it's just something where in 2016, whenever that was, which isn't that long ago. Yeah. It was very much like everybody was saying that to me, like, I can pay you an experience. Mm-hmm. I was like, okay, here we go. And so, you're Ubering yourself there, you're, have to buy lunch the day of or whatever, and it seems very much like abusive in a sense, and like that word is very strong, but it seems very much like, they're just taking advantage of that fact that you have a camera, and you're eager and you're young. And then slowly, that kind of snowballs, and I think if you really just stick with it and you don't get fed up, or, you keep, grinding and hustling, grind and hustle. I slowly just started being like, hey, like, what do you have? What can you spend on this? And so it slowly went from, $0 and free to $50 and expenses paid kind of thing. or $100 in expenses, you know, pay for my film and give me $50 or give me $100, and then, you know, 100, 150, 200, 250, you know, and then it just kind of like kept going and going. And that was about five-ish years, I'd say, because the last 2 years I've been pretty happy with how I've been doing, and I've, you know, had clients, and I have, you know, consistent work kind of thing, and then with Dime and all that. So yeah, I'd say it's been about 5 years that I was this progress, like how am I going to get to this point now?
During high school, you wanted to get into photography, but you had no idea. You wanted to get out of, because I remember you mentioned you wanted to go into a bigger city, so you found your way to Montreal through getting into Concordia. Yeah. And then you had this moment where you're like, you know what, I've left the city, I'm in Concordia, I should be doing what I set out to do. Did you feel like you're obligated to finish your degree at a point?
I did, in the sense that, like, because I always made this joke when I was in school, or like to friends obviously outside of school. Yeah. That I would always be like, my goal is to work so hard outside of school doing photography, and this kind of, you know, hustle thing. Yeah. Keep like meeting people and, you know, whatever, that I would get a job in being a, you know, in-house photographer or being a whatever photographer before I graduated, so that I could drop out. And for some reason, that was this weird goal that I had, where I was like, I want to be able to just drop out and be like, I don't need school. I'm paying my way through, making money, taking photos already before finishing school. I don't know why I was saying that, but I kind of think it was this kind of idea of like, oh, what if I could do that? What if I could like prove to everybody that I was going to make it successfully as some sort of photographer? And I mean, to a degree I did that, but I think I got to that last year, right? And I went through COVID, and COVID just made everything suck for school. Oh, yeah. It was just so tough for everyone if you were in school. The only reason I really stuck through it is because I had like 4 or 5 classes left. And I was just like, you just have 1 year left, do it on Zoom. Like, it's all good. Bang it out kind of thing, you know? And so I'm glad I stuck with it. I'm glad I graduated. But do I think it was necessary? No. And would I go back and do it? Probably not. I don't know. But I can't really look like that. I can't look backwards, because I'm stoked that I did it, I guess.
If someone is a starving artist, more specifically a photographer, and has been doing this for a number of years, what is something you would want to tell them so they can make money? Because if they're starving artists, I feel like you need to make money. Yeah. You know, I feel like money essentially is how you get about life. Yeah, of course. Or get around life. So what is something you would want to tell someone who is in that position?
I mean, I think if they're in that position where they're, you know, talking about the idea of, oh, like, I'm broke, or I can't afford to make my own art, or it's too tough to get grants or something like that. Yeah. I don't know how you do it, because I couldn't say I'm like an artist. Like, I'm not like, you know, out there and producing beautiful work, and I'm not producing like, but things, you know, that could be hung on a wall kind of thing. I don't know.
You had an art gallery.
Okay, well, I did that, but but that was this little thing. So like, I'll kind of get into this. That was the kind of
that I want to be
child.
An artist.
Well, that was the child of like the baby of all this work I've been doing and making money I've been making through photography. It's like, oh, now I can afford to do this. You know, I'm allowed to. And I think a lot of times, and as we should, I think it's a good thing, but you put your artistry first, in the sense of like, I'm an artist, and I'm going to show you that I'm an artist, and I'm going to stick it to the man, and I'm not going to, take clients or whatever. I'm going to focus on my own work, right? Mm-hmm. Hoping that someone notices me. But I think, honest to God, there's a lot of work you can do that is freelance, or that is like people are looking for in terms of editing, in terms of colorists, like our color correction, styling, set assisting, those kinds of things. And I think if you really looked at that and you kind of said, well, if I spent this many hours a week doing this, and then this many hours working on my craft, you can see how they would help each other, but as well then you're gaining money to work on your craft. And I think that there needs to be a balance there. There's a quote that somebody said when I was in university. I think it was one of my TAs. He was pretty real. And it was a class about writing grants, because one of the biggest things when you're an artist is you write grants to then get money from the government or from private whatever it is, to produce your art, right? So they'll pay for everything from your employees to your materials to travel, all that stuff. But he was like, listen, He's like, if you're not going to take this seriously, he's like, just get a job and work for 6 months. He's like, then you'll have the exact same amount of money than if you got for the grant. Because the grant takes you about 6 months to write. But in that time, you could be working on your art or doing whatever. You know, but he was comparing the idea of getting a grant and working. It's about 6 months. So if you don't want to get a grant, just work for 6 months. And I really resonated with that. That made the most sense to me. Because I didn't want to sit on a computer and try to explain to someone why I should get their money. I was like, I'd rather just work for it.
Yeah.
You know? And so, yeah. I think that's it. I think I would just say try to figure out balance and try to see how doing more commercial work or more things that aren't exactly your art can benefit your art in a way, right? There is it's a double-edged sword. You know? Yeah.
Actually, I have another question.
Okay, great.
Why is it that you fell in love with photography?
I think I fell in love with it because on the back end of it, I really fell in love with film photography, and that's what started me off, and that's why I fell in love with it, is because I loved the idea of like not knowing what I got kind of thing, and how mechanical it was, and then once you do get your photos, it kind of being like a Christmas or birthday kind of thing, right? You get those photos back, and you're scared that they're going to come out at all, but then you're also excited when you do see them, and you're like, oh my god, I forgot about that moment or that thing that we did, or that whatever skateboarding or whatever we were doing together.
Right.
So that part of it I really fell in love with right away. But I think that I've learned that I've fallen in love with photography in a sense that I feel like I am always pushing myself to be having fun and to be with my friends and to kind of be, just kind of trying to make people laugh or kind of find little tongue-in-cheek moments in life, candid moments kind of thing. And I think photography is allowing me to capture that. And I think as somebody who moves quickly through life and is kind of like trying to work all the time and and take in everything all at once, and I do seem to push myself a bit too much, photography is almost slowing me down in a sense where it's allowing me to remember these moments. It's allowing me to, keep these moments almost like filed in my head, or my camera roll on my phone even, right? Or, when I go through all my negatives or my hard drives, I'm like, oh man, remember that party we threw and I had a film camera there, or remember that, I don't know, shoot that I did 10 years ago, or not 10 years ago now, but 5 years ago kind of thing. And you're like, oh, that's so funny how bad that was. And you can see your progression. And I think that is kind of even just is organization. And it's just that love of kind of like remembering life kind of thing, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Remembering life. No. And if it, because we can apply this concept to a lot of places.
Yeah.
The photography concept, in terms of like not knowing what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
Or living your past kind of thing, but in a more beautiful way. Where else can we kind of apply this concept? That
I think any type of art is kind of doing that, right? Like, I think all art, and that's where, at the end of the day, like art isn't or shouldn't be for other people, right? It should be for you, right? And I think, from painting to sculpting to even singing, I don't know, dancing, stuff like that. Like, it's all kind of like encapsulating a time in your life, and you'll do it differently throughout the chapters in your life. And I think that through influence and through yourself and through the way that you change and grow, and even your body changes, with age or with whatever. The way that let's just use photography as an example, take photos will change. Mm-hmm. The way that you dance will change. The way that you sing will change. The way that you, sculpt or what you sculpt will change. And I think that's like very important for us to like remember, is that because I get it like this. I get very caught up in like, oh, I need to find more work. I need to do this. I need to do more and more and more. I think that we really need to understand that, like, everything has a meaning to it, and like we can't just be, as I did, my whole art show was about, but it's this can't be it. The things have to have a deeper meaning, right? Being like, don't just do it to do it for a reason. And I did that art show in a way, in a response to the fact that I found myself doing things just to do them, and I really wanted to give that body of work that I had of this, last 5 to 7 years of shooting film and shooting photography another life, to give it a little bit of a backbone and be like, all right, let's close that chapter, and now we've given it its full breathing time, Now I can move on and start again, and now I'll always have that memory, and especially as I made a book, I'll always have that to be like, yep, that was a time in my life, perfect. And I didn't just do it to do it, I did it for the reasons that I loved. I did it for, feeling the joy of printing, for feeling the joy of remembering those memories, for looking back on past shoots and past friends, past relationships, and all of that is like something that I love, looking at memories and realizing that that was a time in my life,
So you didn't close a chapter, or you didn't close that part of life, but you kind of, now you know that there's something else.
Yeah.
So what is it?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I'm trying to figure it out. And it's kind of scaring me a little bit, but, what I did for this show was like, I took photos over the last 6, 5, 7 years, whatever it was, right? And I just kind of like bookend them, basically. So like I took a bunch, took all my favorites. I keep like burping. And I bookend them.
Have some water.
No, it's all good.
Okay.
I think it's more just something inside me. So I took all these photos and I picked the ones that I really loved and really gave me memories or core memories kind of thing. And I literally put them in a book, And so now it's on the shelf. That doesn't mean that it's done. That doesn't mean that it's over. But it means that, from 18 to 25, and I'm glad I did it this year at this age of 25, I can now start looking towards, leaving my 20s and going into my 30s, right? And, hitting 30. What am I going to do now? How am I going to mature as an artist and as a person? And what am I going to change in my life?
That's beautiful.
And I think it's a huge thing. I think it's like pretty cool. And the goal is to do this same event when I'm 30. So This Can't Be It was the name of the show. It'll be This Can't Be It again. Or This Can't Be It Part 2 or
I
something.
love it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's like, or like This Still Can't Be It, or something,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, I think like that'll be concise. It'll be, it'll hold a similar vibe of photo or type of photo, but I think it'll be now from 25 to 30, right? And it's like, okay, like let's look at how styles have changed. Let's look at who I was hanging out with. Let's look at what I was doing outside of work. Let's look at how I'm not really in the photos, but just the vibe of how like I was living, or where I was living, even where I was traveling to.
I mean, it kind of tells story.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think that's what I want. I think that's kind of like how we should look at art in a sense, where it's like we should be understanding that these are times in our lives, and we're not just doing. It's not like it consumes us, but we also consume it. If that makes any sense.
That makes sense.
You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like we are breathing it as it breathes. It's such a corny concept, but it's like you got to think about it like that. You got to think about how like you're gonna evolve with the art and how time evolves. It's like you just gotta kind of keep rolling with it, but checking back and looking at how you've grown. And I think that's huge.
And 100% it is. Another assumption that I made is through that art gallery, you are differentiating yourself from other photographers. And that's not in a cruel way. It's just something that you're doing that other creatives or other photographers are not doing. At least as far as I know. Maybe I'm just uneducated. So you're sort of building your personal brand now, right?
Yeah.
Talk about, because I feel like everybody in this world should have a personal brand.
Yeah.
I feel like it can give you an edge towards, I don't know, anything, right? And I feel like I can explain that better, but I mean, I'm building relationships and I'm building personal brand with the podcast.
Yeah.
Because I was speaking with Nolan
Yeah.
Couple of days ago, and he said now our personal brand, which is more so seen online, which basically is online, is like our portfolio, is our resume, right? Talk to me about the importance of building a personal brand as a photographer.
Yeah. I think it's new. I think it's like really new for me, especially that I'm like trying to do this. And I think what you can do is like, you can showcase your style as a photographer, and it's pretty easy to do after you've amassed somewhat of a body of work. You can kind of see, okay, I can kind of see how you shoot photos or what your look is, right? So people will book you and hire you for that, the literal personal brand of like what your photos are. But I think as well, if you start to look at it like, you are this person that's going to be on set or that's going to be around people taking photos. You're making them comfortable. You're either making them comfortable or uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You are... you're a personality because you have to be directing this shoot up to a degree. You have to be very personable. And I think if you can show that in your personal brand, or at least just when you're in person and you're consistent with that, it kind of gives a good, representation of who you are. And it kind of allows people to know, okay, no, I know that this is his vibe on set or his energy, I can now see who he is. And that's, let's just say, for example, oh, he's kind of funny, right? So his photos come in a little bit funny, or there's a little bit of touch of comedy in there.
So, you mentioned that when people look at your photos, or people have told you that when they look at your photos, they think that they're there.
Yeah.
They're experiencing the moment. And I felt like that too, because when I looked at the Dime lookbook for, I forgot what campaign, but there was this girl, she was in the air with her hands like that. Kind of thing. Yeah, and I felt like I was there. So
I think I try to make everything very personal, or personable almost, like make it more fun than serious, and I like that, and I like having a little bit of like I want you to look at it and like kind of chuckle, like I never want the full laugh. I don't want someone to laugh. I want someone to be like and then like keep going.
Yeah.
You know, I just want to like I'm here for the exhale. You know, that's kind of it's a joke that I've made before with my cousin, but it's like that's all we're here in life. My purpose in life is to make people exhale. It's like nice, and then it's like keep going. You know.
What is the difference between that exhale and a full chuckle or full laugh?
I think the laugh is kind of like either that's for someone that I think is more, developed or like finished or like has a full body of work, something like nice, like, oh, that was funny, like that was a cool funny thing, right? And I think the exhale is just like you kind of get the inside joke, and I think that's what I want. I want it to be I want people to feel like they get the inside joke, and that's kind of always something I've looked for in my photos, is like how can I make someone feel like, one, they're a part of this, but two, that I'm not trying to be better or pretentious, or I want nothing of that. I want you to feel like we're on the same level, and like my photos are not here to change the world, they're here to make you feel like you're a part of my world, Yeah. And that's kind of what I want.
I'm assuming you are confident.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I feel like you're scared to say that you're confident or pretend that you're confident.
Yeah.
Am I right?
No, you're right. And I don't take offense to that. I think it's like I am a confident person. I'm happy to talk to anybody. I'm open. I'm easy. But I think that in this world, there's a difference between being confident and being cocky, and obviously as there is. But a lot of people cross that line a bit too much, and they do it in a way to hide their insecurities.
Okay.
And I don't want to hide that. I'm like, we're all insecure. We're all like looking for answers. We're all trying to 100%. Figure it out. Like I'm 25. Like how the fuck could I be fully confident? Like I'll be confident when the moment needs me to be confident. But in other ways, I'm always gonna doubt myself so that we can have a conversation honestly. And it's not doubting myself. It's just questioning everything that I'm doing. And that's good. You should be doing that. You shouldn't assume that you have the answers. And a lot of people, I think, do. And that's where they can be kind of seeing too big picture, or too, like maybe the other way. Maybe it's too close to where that they forget about something else. Forget about someone else's feelings. Like, don't look at the other side of things. Don't see how they can change. And I think if you're too, one way. Yeah. It's like whatever. But you're right. I think I need to work on not doubting myself so much.
I mean, like you said, everybody has to work on, like people have to work on themselves. I feel like it's a continuous practice. Yeah. Right.
I think I want to be able to be confident and not have that little like insecurity or kind of like feel like, as you said, scared. Like I'm not scared. I'm just trying to always not step on anyone's toes. Yeah. And chameleon, and I want everyone to feel happy and comfortable around me. And so it's just that it's like I will one day be fully comfortable in my own skin, but until then, it's like you just kind of have to grow and like go with it and like know that I am comfortable in my own skin, but I'm just doing it in a way that I don't want other people to think that I'm, oh, here Max is here. Oh, great. It's like he's going to take up all the fucking air in the room. It's like his fucking big head. It's like I don't want that. I want it to be very, natural, and just know that like this is a process for me as a professional and as well as a person.
You do try to be a little conscious about making sure that Max is not taking air.
I think so, because I think like at the end of the day, like you can always be the person who, like I could walk into a room and be like, yeah, what's up? I fucking do this. I feel great every time. This is awesome. But in reality, other people are probably going through shit, or like don't want to hear you say that, and it's just like shut up. I don't know.
No. I get that, and something I want to share real quick. Like before the podcast and like whatever I was doing, especially when I was throwing parties, I wanted to wear. I was like, like Sam is that guy. Yeah. Like, you gotta go to his party, or you gotta do this and that back in Saskatchewan. And now when people compliment me, I know like I'm confident in what I do, and I'm not that confident, but I'm starting to get confident. And like I said, it's a practice.
Yeah.
But now, as soon as as soon as I've realized I'm starting to get confident, I started to back away from not compliments, but more so, oh, like, look at what Simon's doing. Or look at, oh, how cool is that? And things like that. Most definitely, we both appreciate where we are and whatnot, but I try to, like, be like, it's not that cool. Anybody can do it kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's not you self-depreciating yourself.
No.
It's just kind of be like,
I think it's better to be uncomfortable than comfortable. And I think there's a difference between confident there, but it's like the idea if you just are so consistently being like, thanks for saying that about me. I already know. Like, I'm the best,
Yeah.
Then you just get comfortable in being the best or thinking that you're the best. You know what I mean? Like, there's obviously levels there. But it's like, if you just understand the compliment is there in the moment, and you take it graciously, but then you say to yourself, well, okay, that's great for right now, but you can't let that get to your head.
Yeah.
Like realizing that these things are going to change. All of this is going to, turn, and you might fuck up again, or you might not hit that compliment again. Can't let that go to your head.
Right.
You have to give yourself compliments, and then you got to fucking realize that you got to keep going. You got to keep moving. So, yeah.
No, that was cool. That was a cool conversation.
I think so. It was cool.
Especially like.
I think it was vulnerable. I think it was real.
It was. It was real. Yeah. I don't know, man. Like the other day, I had a friend over, and we started talking about mental health, and I remember, like, I asked him a question like, what is something that you do for yourself, or and he was like, what the fuck, like, when like I hang out with my guys, it's like, oh, like, what girl did you bang the other day, kind of thing,
Who's he hanging out with, dude? He's hanging out with bad people. I mean, I'm sure they're great, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I get that, but I feel like even now that you say that, we have surrounded ourselves with people that we can have conversations with, like these. That's really cool.
I think so.
And for me to, like, not have a platform, to, like, sort of build a platform where I can have the people that I really want to talk to, and I feel like people should listen to, and make them feel like they're a human.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the coolest fucking thing.
Oh, sorry.
That's me, just talking about myself, gassing myself up.
But you are, and I think podcasts are great like that. I think if you can make a good podcast where you can make someone feel comfortable, and I think you're also doing it in a great city. I think like a lot of this content that's like TikTok stuff or YouTube stuff, like that fucking Vogue 73 questions or whatever that is. Have you ever seen that? But it's just like, what do you do every day? And it's just like, it's very pretentious. And I think that you're in a great city for being able to get people to be honest with you and be real with you, Yeah. And I mean, branch out, like go to Toronto, go to New York, try to meet anyone you can.
Yeah, right.
There's great people everywhere. But I think that Montreal is a great culture. One, I think, for just people to express themselves and to feel open. And I think you're going to get honest answers from people. And I think that's kind of why I wanted to move here. That's why I stayed here. And I think you can just kind of see that time and time again with people in all different professions. It feels good. It feels welcoming,
Yeah, I'm not going to disclose how much I was making, but I told you the amount. I had every reason to move out of this city.
Yeah.
And I just trusted the process, kind of thing. And yeah, man, like even Nolan, like he moved here in July, just like me, and we actually we had this whole conversation where Montreal is extremely welcoming.
Yeah.
And I feel like I don't know. I guess I'm just speaking from my experience, but Anglophones hate Francophones and all that BS. Yeah. I don't know if I really.
I mean, I think what we're talking about too is like we also got to understand that like this city is not welcoming for certain people and is not welcoming for the idea of Anglophone versus Francophone and all that. But and what up?
That's my roommate.
What's up? How are you? Hey, Max. Nice to meet you, man. Yeah. Nice to meet you. No, so what I was saying is just that, like, I think for some people, especially in other worlds, and they're coming to the city even as an immigrant or as somebody who is coming here in different professions, is not going to be as welcoming. But I think what we're talking about is it's very welcoming in terms of creativity and in terms of people who want to start something, start a business, start a brand, start doing an art practice.
Mm-hmm.
That's lovely, and I think that crosses all genders, norms, stereotypes, all these things, races and all that, and it's amazing. It's great. It's such a beautiful city for that.
I'm going to do this again. Maxwell Neubacher.
Thank you very much.
What are some of the easiest ways other creatives can have a conversation with you?
You can text me. Just put my number out.
No,
you should follow me on Instagram at Maxwell Lincoln. It's Maxwell with like 4 L's because Maxwell and Lincoln start and end into the same letter. And then if not that, just my other Instagram is maxneubacher. You'll find everything's there. I mean, you could email me off that.
Exactly.
Or whatever.
His links will be in the description below. I guess I'm doing the whole YouTube thing.
Yeah, it is
now.
Sick.
But yeah, man, you have some great relationships, and I want to build relationship with some of the other people.
Yeah, I'm gonna put you in contact with some people that I think you should interview for sure.
For sure.
Definitely.
And sweet, man. Let's end it here.
Cool.
Cool.
Thank you. Cheers.
I guess we're doing this too.